created free, created me. I was brought into this world to live authentically, living my life, and it's full of freedom. Nothing in this world that I can't overcome, 'cause I'm created free, created me. I stepped out into this world with my audacity. I'm living bold and I'm full of life, 'cause I am perfectly created free. I'm loving myself, loving myself, loving myself, loving
Hey, beautiful soul. Welcome to the Created Free Podcast. I am your proud host, August Crenshaw, aka Mrs. Raw, Real, and Relentless. And you're here because the words created free sound good, but you're working on making it more of a reality in your life. So stick around as we discuss and challenge all that we know and feel about relationships, religion, business, spirituality, emotions, and so much more. Whatever life is throwing at us, okay? It's a topic of discussion. And then watch me show how this is impacting the way that you're showing up as an entrepreneur. So we're going to be challenging authenticity, and we're going to get to the root of who we really are and what we desire, and make sure we're doing everything that we can to manifest a life that we love. All right, so let's get into it. All right, now, welcome, beautiful soul. So like I said, let's get into it. Now, some of you are new to me, and I want to go ahead and do just like a brief intro. I'm not going to keep this long because as we're talking, I tell a lot of stories. You're going to learn a lot about me. And I don't want you listening to a podcast episode where it's really about me instead of what you're dealing with. But just so you got a little bit of history, I've been an entrepreneur all my life. Started my first business in high school, braiding hair, and a lot of times hairstylists don't get the credit that they're supposed to get, but I was real, setting appointments, charging fees, and I did that for over 20 years. And some of my clients that started with me in high school were there even when I finished. I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri. Lived there all my life. In 2014, my husband agreed with me in this random spiritual push that I felt to leave St. Louis. We moved to another city, and it was not for me to do hair. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I just knew that it was supposed to be something different. Got out here and started working a job again while I'm like, God, this can't be for me. What am I supposed to do? Revelation hit. You're supposed to become a coach. Started business in 2015. First, I'm just writing books and putting bullshit posts out on social media. By 2016, I learned what live video is, got a better handle on what it means to be a coach. And I'm going to tell you guys something. I didn't even know what the hell I was doing, but I was showing the fuck up. And so here we are almost 7 years later, and I am thriving and enjoying what I'm doing. So the bottom line is, as you can see how I started and was an entrepreneur and stopped and moved. I've went through another period in my life where I evolved. Well, guess what? Those of you that are coming into contact with me, I am in another grand state of evolution. Evolution is always occurring, but we have these moments that are very pivotal in our life. And you're here because you're going through different states of your evolutionary process. So anywho, for those of you that have been around me, you saw that I was on a hiatus for about 90 days before I came back on the scene. Actually, not about, it was 90 days, and it's been a little bit longer since I've been podcasting. But anywho, I am here because the discoveries I had during that time frame, I realized it was not just for me. It was for other people who were struggling with some of the same things. And so we're here together because we're going to have very challenging conversations. And if you saw the title of the first podcast, today we're going to be talking about being birthed in bondage. If we're going to address this whole concept of being created free, which is what every episode is about. Well, some of the things that we'll also have to address is like, what is the actual bondage? And many of you may be like, what does she mean? As far as Black people are concerned, yeah, we know, right? We know what birth and bondage looks like. We can go and ride the slavery story until the wheels fall off, but that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the bondage of words. I don't know if any of you have ever read the book called The Four Agreements. It's a phenomenal book, and I've probably read it like 8 times. And I read it periodically because it's one of those things that you have to re-examine your life over and over again, and you go through degrees in it. But one of the things that the gentleman talks about is how from birth we're programmed. We're told what's our name, what's right, what's wrong, what's appropriate, inappropriate. And this is something that goes on, whether that's from our religious leaders, societal values, family traditions, and things of that nature. And basically what the guy is saying is that you never really got to set the barometer for yourself because so much has been dumped on you since you were a child, since you were put on this planet. And so what I've learned is that in order to evolve into the greatest state, the greatest version of myself, it has required me to do something that a lot of people are afraid to do, and that's say, what if everything I believe is a lie? Challenging your belief systems is one of the scariest things in the world because that means that you feel like you're challenging you. People take it personal, right? It becomes an identity crisis. And I'm very well past that point that I can release a belief system and realize that it hasn't taken anything from me. There are a lot of things that I believed when I was younger. Like I used to say, I'll never be the kind of woman that'll be, let a man do this and stay in a marriage that's, bad or violent. But many, 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 many years ago with my first husband, I ended up being in one of those situations. And I was one of the women who tried to make it work when the evidence was clear that it would not. I didn't stay as long as some women I know do. But bottom line is, we have to challenge our beliefs. Now, here's the other side. When I say birth and bondage, you see how I gave that example with my previous ex-husband. But being birth and bondage does not have to be because someone spoke something negative over your life. What about the positive forms of bondage? So here's a little bit more history on me. I was raised in a church. I was raised by my paternal grandmother. Now, let me go ahead and put this disclaimer out here right now. I'm not a Christian. I have experienced the manifestation of many wonderful things in my life, and that may be because of something involving the law of attraction, something, that was a biblical scripture that I align with. At the end of the day, I'm not claiming anything to be the totality of who I am spiritually. I am open and I do what works for me. You do what works for you. However, there are several things that are said in the Bible that I do agree with. And unfortunately, I am also called a cherry picking Christian because if it doesn't align with my betterment and making me a better person and I feel like it's condemning, then there's certain things that I throw in the trash. I believe that the Bible can't be a total lie because you need the truth in order to sell it, but that's that. So you're not going to get me to believe that there was a God that ever said that as a slave, I was supposed to obey my master. Okay. Even white people admitted that they made a slave version of the Bible. But anywho, I am getting distracted. But I was raised in church, right? And I was raised in a church where you went all the time. You went to Bible study, choir rehearsal, Sunday school, you went to regular service, then you might have been at a program singing an A and B selection. I'm that girl. And I'll never forget on Tuesday nights, Sister Ruth would grab that olive oil, put it on my forehead, make that cross, and she would pray and speak in tongues. And she would say to my grandmother, like, oh, August has an extraordinary call on her life. And in that season, I was a very brilliant young lady. I was reading very complicated words in the Bible. I would hear people say things like she has a photographic memory. I didn't really know what any of those things meant, but the spirit behind those words, the energy behind those words, they were very, very positive. And so when I heard them, they made me feel good. And as a young child, I took on that idea, me having a call on my life. And I would struggle for years in the church, talking to pastors and serving in ministries and no one really allowing me to really go forward, just actually utilize my skills, trying to start ministries in the basement of my house and stuff like that. And eventually, like I said, I would move away from Christianity because I realized that ministry doesn't have to be traditional or standard according to the church. It doesn't have to be in four walls. And here I am thinking that, yes, now I'm free. So that's your point of reflection. You're here because it's easy to say that I'm free. I'm run my business. I make my own money. I do my own thing. I work for myself. But you really may not be free. What I did is I moved from one set of belief systems to creating something that I thought was my own without ever resetting those belief systems, just ditching the old. So what would happen? I really only began to create the same belief systems in my business because then it became this big old call on my life and this big old ministry and this big old purpose. And I'm still kind of like in that Jesus mode, right? Where I'm supposed to be out here saving the world. Well, I'm out here saving all of the entrepreneurs. And before I knew it, I was back into that mega concept. So that means I started investing in things like high level masterminds, and I'm being around 7-figure earners, multiple 6-figure earners, and things of that nature. And while I was doing that, I didn't even have a chance to challenge, what was going on. From the moment I hit the ground running my business to me investing in different coaching programs, I was just going. And it was all based off of one primary premise, that there was a call on my life and that I was supposed to do extraordinary things. Well, the last year that I was in a particular mastermind, I began to deal with some stuff. Now, first of all, let me just go ahead and put this out there so I ain't got time for you petty people. I'm going to be saying some things that may conflict with their belief systems or their teachings. I'm not coming against any program. I'm not coming up against any coaches. I'm speaking about revelations. And so I want to make sure that we're being adults and not doing this bullshit where we got to agree on every single thing. Because there's no just black or white. There's a lot of fucking gray area. And so I'm speaking about experiences and revelations, not people and programs. It just may happen to be that some of the things that people say or that I say, they clash. And that's really all that this is about. And as a matter of fact, the last program that I was in, it's crazy, right? I got in, I did all of the things. And I remember, like I said, thinking to myself, oh yeah, I'm going to create this big old business. I'm supposed to do all of this stuff. But it was expensive. I understand some of you have invested at a much higher level, but the program was $36,000 a year. And so we're talking about $3,000 a month. I mean, hell, even with inflation, my rent isn't $3,000 a month, but I was paying for that and my VA and my CPA and running ads at about $2,000 a month. My experience while I was in the program was just fine. I leveled up. I grew my tribe. I made more money. I was keeping up with the expenses that I was creating, but life was also happening and I was feeling a little tapped. And I remember when it was about time to renew. And my brain was like, oh my God, you got to renew. Why wouldn't you renew? Look at what you've accomplished. Look at your coaches. Look at what they accomplished. You could be like them, so on and so forth. But even with all of those thoughts, I was like, something's not right. And I was feeling kind of wishy-washy about investing. And you guys that know me, when I say I'm investing, I'm like, I'm just investing. And a lot of times I invest and I don't know where the money's going to come from, but I just do that shit. Well, I kept trying to, coach myself. Oh, girl, don't you let your money mindset get in the way. And, you going to invest. And then, one day something really personal happened. And I just really appreciated how one of the coaches looked out for me. And I'm like, oh, look at this. And this is like family. And I'm crying. And I'm just so grateful. And I know a part of that has to do with the fact that my own family's not in my life. So emotionally, it held another level of weight. But that was just justification. Girl, you better renew. But the money, well, then guess what? I got blessed. I had enough money where I could pay for the whole year in full and still have change in my pocket. It wasn't about the money anymore. But I'm grateful that I leaned into my intuition because my intuition was like something's still off and you can't do this. And I just started feeling all of these weird feelings. So then in another program, I called my mentor and I'm like, oh my God, what am I supposed to be doing? Guidance is important to me. Should I be paying to work with you at a higher level? And even in the midst of talking to him, I was like, I need to take a break. I need to meditate. I need to journal. I need to read. I need to focus on some things. I was like, let me do that and then I'll get back with you. Well, some time passed. I became very firm in my decision. I did not renew with the program. And then I went on a hiatus. I was like, I just need to breathe. Let me take a day, a couple days, a week off of social media. And the day turned to a week, the week turned to a month, and the month turned into 90 days. And what ended up happening was I began to have these revelations, and I'm like, well, what do you think? What do you believe? Time to go through and do that again. And what I realized that at this season in my life, while thriving and growing is important to me, being a 7-figure earner is not. And I remember there was this woman I spoke to. She had made the comment, yeah, people come into, our program or whatever, and they say they want to be millionaires. But then when they made, 10, 20, 30,000, that's more money than they ever made. And then after that, they stopped working with us. Well, she had a chip on her shoulder, honestly, because she equated people not wanting more and not wanting to make all of that money. That was a judgment that she was putting out there. So God, bless her heart for whatever judgment that she has on herself. But anywho, when she said that, I was like, no, I'm going for it. And I'm like, no, I'm not. But see, if I would have still kept going for it based on that conversation, that would have been an agreement. And that sounds like a good thing, because August, why wouldn't you want to make millions? But when you do the math, some of you just getting a cool $350,000 a year, making, not even $250,000 for some of you, will change the quality of your life, where you live, what you eat, where you drive, where you travel, all of those things. A lot of times we just naturally associate a quality of life with being a millionaire, but you don't have to be a millionaire to live a high quality of life. And just because you're not striving for millions doesn't mean that you're content or complacent. See what I'm saying? So even though she might have thought she was saying something positive, I could have been putting myself into bondage by accepting her words. And so I realized that that's not where my focus is. That's not where my heart is at. And I had to recalibrate. And I'm basically just, from you listening, you guys, I share stories because as I'm speaking about what's happening with me or my clients, we're all going through something similar. But then it's for you to say, well, which pieces of these parts stick out for me? Like, challenge your belief systems and say, what if it's not true? What if the opposite is true? What if I don't do this? And you got to think about it. What did your coaches, your mentors, your spiritual leaders, your organizations, your teachers, your parents, society, what are they telling you is the truth about you? What have you accepted or agreed to? So that you can then see if that's what you really want and what you really believe, because we all have the right to create a life designed to suit our values. And we can all coexist and have varying degrees of values. So yeah, being birthed in bondage doesn't mean that, someone called you a loser and took your freedom. But the words that they've spoken over your life and that you've chosen to align with could be limiting your freedom, limiting your imagination and capacity to create a life that you desire. So that's it for episode 1. I'm looking forward to hearing your feedback. You can respond on, whatever platform you see this posted on. If you're on the email list and you got the link sent out for this, email me back. Talk to me. How did this episode make you feel? What came up for you? All right. And so this is just a little taste of what it's going to be like. So we're going to deal with issues that what's happening with us emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually. And we're going to challenge those beliefs so that we can begin to create a business and a life that is on our terms. And I'm telling you, this is important for you, because if you don't know what your beliefs are, then how can you truly get out there and authentically show up, period, in life or in business? And how can you acquire the clients and the circumstances that are going to be best suited to propel your mission forward? All right. So I love y'all. I'm going to get out of here. And I'll see you at the next episode. Deuces. Yes. Thank you for tuning in to the Created Free podcast. But it ain't over yet, baby. Don't forget to head over to augustcrenshaw.com/gift and get your free case study. I'm hoping that you are realizing more and more how everything is connected, and this is impacting how your marketing muscle looks in your business, especially as it pertains to copy, video, and then also your sales muscle. Don't forget to subscribe and give us a 5-star review. Share this episode with someone you know that needs it, and just stay tuned, and we'll be back to discuss another topic next week or whenever the hell I feel like it. All right, you all have a beautiful day. Deuces.